Well Done Records.
Kerero kwire nekia utuko na menya maro ona guthinika rucini ruoka gukagia ndohio na gutugira ona gutherema. Kerero kwire nekia utuko na menya maro ona guthinika rucini ruoka gukagia ndohio.
Nimerudi tena. Halo halo. Nimerudi tena. Nilikuwa nimewapea 5 minutes ya kuongea kumalizia mahali nilikuwa nimekatia. Sasa ninaomba kwa sababu yule ambaye tulikuwa tunangoja amefika, wamama wote, kama umekalishana na mama already, naomba akuje pande hii niko. Amami atata aratara megoko atumia na mwenyiheria ndenda muke hahandi tuhea tulia itegeteo akwafa itegeteo maikarira ite matwirorere ni ihinda rĩao merorere muthako. Atumia aciari tata amami akoni na shosho akowe muthuri haria uri wikarite ni uriganite na mutumia mwire ndiramwita haha muhirega wothe wa Sara na kutaka hapa walio na skati walio yogo twende haya na manage kende ya topeno haya na ngoti no to haya na museria motwaine haya Naomba makofi mzuri ya mchungaji wetu. Hatutapiga hivyo. Nataka niwafundishe ile tutafanya. Tutarembesha. Alafu tupige 1 2 3 aha. 1 2 3 aha. 1 2 3 mwa. Tukielekeza wapi? Tukielekeza wapi? Mwa ya mwisho kwa mchungaji wetu Tulembeshe basi. Lembesha vile nimekuonyesha. Lembesha. Wacha wivu. Kesho tutakuja kwako. Haya rembesha. Rembesha, rembesha kabisa. Tumefundishwa tuyashughulikie magani. Tuache kuyashughulikia tutakula nini, tutakunywa nini, tutafute ufalme wa mbinguni kwanza. Rembesha kabisa. Fikishia mtoto wako ujumbe ya kwamba masomo yake anaweza enda nayo ng'ambo na hakuna mtu atamnyang'anya. Rembesha. Rembesha. Haya tupige 1 2 3 aha. 1 2 3 aha. 1 2 3 nimesahau na vile nimewafundisha vizuri. 1 2 3 aha. 1 2 3 aha. 1 2 3 mwa. Kwa mchungaji Haya rembesha. Rembesha. Wacha kinyongo. Kesho tunakuja kwako jamani. Rembesha. Haya tuchape 1 2 aha. 1 2 aha. Asante sana mchungaji wetu. Kwa kweli umetushibisha kiroho.
Good evening everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, distinguished guests, board children, I'd like to welcome you all to my graduation. Never in my life have I ever thought that I'd pull such a crowd in my honor, and for that I'm very grateful for all your presence. Try not to be nervous, you know. It's my first speech and I never expected to be in a dress. I'm more of a trousers guy myself. So, for those who might not know me, Victor Maina. the son to Nancy Mumbi Maina and my sister Diana Karongari. And I'm standing here today as a graduate of the university, and we are all gathered here to celebrate a piece of paper. Why are we celebrating a piece of paper, you might ask? Because first of all, it's a very expensive piece of paper, and second of all, it shows the blood, sweat and tears that a student endures in his academic journey, and it proves to the world that he has the knowledge in a particular field that he has studied and mastered, and he is ready to go into the world. And the journey started some 20 odd years ago, and it wasn't always an easy journey. It has been full of ups and downs, and through all that I have weathered through all that. There were moments when I needed to turn a head full of sharp knives into a spotless one so that I could focus on whatever I was doing. But I always knew the end goal and I always kept it in mind. I wanted to get this degree, and here I am standing before you. I have this degree in my name and I'm very proud of myself, and I hope you're proud of me too. All of you have been giving me advice, and I've had all of them. But I'm also one who wants to give you and myself a bit of advice that might help some of you out there in life. And my first piece of advice would be to embrace naive optimism. You might ask, what is naive optimism? Naive optimism means that it's easier to be optimistic about your future when you know little about where you're headed to. Because if you learn about what it takes to get to where you're headed to, you might get discouraged because it's never an easy path. And this journey of life, it's like crossing a river. When you're crossing a river, you start at the bank, and then you look, you might see some few rocks and boulders there, and spoon around, and you might test some with your feet, but eventually you have to choose a rock, and you have to take that step, take that leap, and you commit to that rock, and you go one rock at a time. But even in this life, you might slip and fall. But when you have that naive optimism, when you pick that rock that you want to, the first rock near the bank, you don't really know what you don't know. So you just keep going, and you encounter these problems that you will encounter eventually. They always come about. It's never a smooth ride. But when you have that naive optimism, you have like the confidence of a child trying to walk. And when a child starts trying to walk, he will fall down, he will get up, he will fall down, he will get up. Because that's what he wants, that's what he's aiming for. So when you have naive optimism, you have the dedication, the passion, because when you're not an expert in anything, you don't know what it takes, and not knowing what it takes sometimes can be important, because you'll do everything in your power once you've selected a path. And for me, the river that I'm talking about, the rocks that I'm talking about, is I have very many career options to pursue. I have property management, I have property valuation, I have estate agency, I have building surveying. I can be a developer eventually when I get a bit of land somewhere, you know. But once you pick that rock, you have to be dedicated, you have to master it, you have to obsessively look at it from all angles and learn about it. And once you do that, you will realize there are even more steps to take, more rocks in the river that you can see. And that is all it's all about. When you choose something, you do it well. Like my aunt says, you do it well. My second piece of advice to you would be to frame your failures. And by this, I will give an analogy. Like my sister said, I have an Xbox and I really love playing on it. whenever I get a new game, first thing I do is I crank it up to the hardest difficulty. Maybe because I love the pain and suffering, I don't know, but I put it on the hardest difficulty and my goal is to beat the game. And when you first pick a controller, you'll meet the first enemy, you might die, but no one ever says that, you know what, he puts the controller down, I'm a failure. No, they do not say that. You do it again and you learn, this time there's an enemy here. What did I do wrong? What can I do right this time? And you approach it with a bit of finesse and caution this time. And eventually you try enough times and you manage to beat that enemy and you move from one enemy to the next, the one enemy to the next. That's what I mean by framing your failures. You don't look at them as a failure, you look at them to learn from them. And if you learn from them, you'll realize that everyone in this life has always failed at something. No one here can sit here and say, no, I've never failed at something, but it did not put them down. They kept going at it and eventually you're all here where you are right now. And my third piece of advice would be foster your relationships, whether it's with your friends, your spouse, or even total strangers. And when you're in school, when you're young, it's easier to make friends. And even see the kids here, they're all friends and probably they've never seen each other ever. When you get older, life gets busier and it gets harder to make friends. So the ones you have to maintain those relationships, you have to build them. And how do you build them? You build them with, what's this term called? Confirmation bias is the way our brain works. If you decide that you want to see the best in someone, your brain will ignore everything negative about them and it will only allow you to see the positive one. It will cherry pick those positive traits and positive impacts they have in your life. And